Um, awesome. I'm curious though. You said your family owned some commercial real estate too. Was that from a young age? Was it as you were growing up?
Well, no, my grandfather owned it, and then like his kids owned more and more. As you grow up, you own a portion of investments, and a lot of stuff you hold on to it because it's in the right locations and stuff.
Mhm.
Luckily for me, what happened is that a lot of the stuff that we did own, and it was retail, no houses. Weirdly, everybody talks about like owning houses before they do this, and would jump off a building and kill myself before I bought a house, right? And weirdly, I never did it because I think it's partly because nobody in they own their own houses and stuff, but not houses as investments,
Right.
So they did everything from like, you buy land. Again, this is, you've got money. It's like any doctor, physician, whatever, you invest your money sort of deal. It isn't like that's what they did. So everything from retail to buying land to that sort of stuff over the years. But the one thing I did realize was because there were a couple of assets that we held. Now I think we're going to the fifth decade of holding it, was that location matters so much that literally you can literally all your sins are forgiven if you're in the right location.
Yeah,
literally.
It's the real estate 101, right? Location.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I say people all the time, you buy the right piece of dirt, you can fuck everything up. Time heals all wounds.
Yeah.
Do you have a specific example in mind that you can share?
Yeah, I can tell you in Pakistan at least, and we own some in Dubai and Canada as well. But specifically in Pakistan, just to tell you, because retail market, you'd be very surprised, is somewhat very similar across the world.
Mhm.
Because whoever's retail and commercial real estate, because whoever's buying it typically happens to be somewhat sophisticated. They typically happen, at least if they don't have a complex financial model, at least they know how to run that. They know how to run the calculation because they're in the market. This is what they do for a living. Dude, we've owned a couple of assets like going into the fifth decade. Straight up, the reason is high foot traffic, and they're smack dab in the middle of the central business district. Literally, there have been times where we have literally done so many stupid things you have no idea. Like, you go down the list of stupid things and we don't know all of them. And we still survive. And the straight up, the reason was, look, if you got like 50, 80, 100,000 people and cars going by you, how do you screw that up, man?
Yeah,
it's kind of hard to screw that up.
For sure.
And same thing with hotels. Same thing with most commercial real estate, right? You got your multifamilies. If you're in a high foot traffic area, dude, jack up the rents. What are people going to do? Bitch and moan? Yeah, cool. Keep bitching and moaning and keep paying me my money.
It's a fair point because you're not going to build a retail center where there's 13,000 people in the entire MSA, right? If it's all farmland, you're not putting, 17 big box retail stores. Think about all the big box retail stores, whether they're going out of business or not, they're doing like the demographic side of it. It's like, no, this side of the street gets way more people than this side. We're putting a Starbucks over here.
Yeah.
It's where there's people and traffic, like you said, if you don't want to pay for it, he will. And if he won't, one of the other 150,000 people.
No, and that's the other thing. I think Chris and I have talked about this, right? Like, I would much rather buy, again, this is purely a personal thing, obviously. This is not a money generation or return generation issue. This is a personal preference. I would much rather buy a B-type property and slightly overpay for it, because what I'm always looking at as an example is, in case shit hits the fan, because, I'm always paranoid about shit hitting the fan, right? In case shit hits the fan, especially in these bigger markets where I am in, right? I know for a fact that tomorrow, if I want to go liquidate this, there is a deep buyer and seller pool for that same type of product and asset that, look, I might find a better deal in the middle of nowhere, Mississippi. It might be the world's greatest deal. But if I ever go sell it, who the hell's going to buy it from me?
Yeah.
No, and there's like two guys who are going to buy it from me, and they already know why I'm trying to sell it.
Yep.
And then they can hold me, they can really, really screw around with me. But when I got 5 people and a line outside the door, we're like, look, man, take it or leave it. I got a line outside the door. You don't like it? Cool. Who gives a shit?
That's the best position in the world to be in. And I agree. People don't, it's like you said, it's a personal preference thing, but give me a really solid B+ B product in a great location. I'll overpay for it. I will personally, because I know, one, I'm going to go to bed at night. And two, if shit hits the fan, okay, maybe it's not going to be a 45 IRR, but you know what? 12 is great. 15, I can go to bed. I can go to bed at night and know that in due time, I'm okay. And
from a risk management point of view, right? If you think about it, look, if you manage the downside, look, if you're always in the game, like you were never wiped out, you always stayed in the game, invariably that means you'll become rich over a period of time. That's just compound returns. It's just that's math. You can't argue against math, right? But if you go higher and higher up on the risk spectrum to the point where you might get wiped out, one little mistake wipes you out. Well, dude, the whole point of the game is to stay in the game. As long as you're in the game for a prolonged period of time, you'll make the money. You'll make it up for, like, some years will be down, some years will be high, but you won't be poor, right? You won't be bankrupt. I mean, it's kind of hard to screw up real estate if you buy in the right area.
Correct.
I mean, and so many doctors in the world are testament to that. They all think they're God's gift to earth. They all screw it up. But the 5% of them who buy in the right areas, they screw up everything, and they're still coming out fine.
Yeah, because you've got, if shit hits the fan, your person that lives in the A-class stuff, is probably pretty comfortable moving down into the B-class stuff if they have to, or finding.
Yeah, but they're not going to move to C-class. They would much rather sell the house and the car, but never move to C-class.
For sure, and that's the point. It's you're always going to have, an ass for that seat. Like I think about myself. I live in Williamsburg, which is probably an A-class area.
Hipster capital of the world,
there
man.
You go, man. It's actually less hipster now than you would think. You
really?
Gotta go outside Williamsburg.
Yeah, now it's like professionals.
Yeah, now it's like if you're not hipster if you're in Williamsburg anymore. Now you're too mainstream.
You're main. Yeah, I was gonna say you're like me. You're like you're not a Brooklyn person anymore. You're like a city person.
Yeah, it's like I lived in Bushwick before that,
hipster.
And that's where you find hipsters. But even Bushwick was starting to get to the point where it's like, even now, like if you want to be like the hipster, you couldn't live in Bushwick. It was even a little bit too mainstream.
When I worked for Marcus and Millichap,
you got to go all the way out now.
When I worked for Marcus and Millichap and I was selling buildings in Ridgewood and Bushwick, and this was 2012, 13, whatever, 14, 15, in that range. I remember it was like when hipster, like the word like came out, right? It was early on, and I remember a kid say like. He looked at it like it was a bad word. Like I'm not a hipster. Like I'm better than them. They're like poor peasant people way out in Ridgewood. I'm like, what? Like this? Like that's what it is. It is what it is. But
you do still get it. But it's definitely more mainstream. But if shit hit the fan and my income got slashed, I would move to another part of Brooklyn that's not as nice. I would go move to a Bushwick or a downtown Brooklyn or what's underneath it. Park Slope-ish.
Park Slope's really nice, but they're parts.
I'm trying to think what would be a good example. I guess Bushwick, Bed-Stuy.
Yeah, parts.
Yes, but would you commit to the unthinkable and move to New Jersey?
Forget that. Never. Yeah, so that's why all of Jersey's C-class.
Yeah, there you go. I feel it.
We're gonna have some angry letters, some angry texts.
The entire Jersey area just rips us.
You better watch out, man. I live pretty far away, but you might have some guys just whacking you over the head with a golf club or something, man.
But that's the point. It's if B class, you've got a lot of stuff, and the really nice thing that I like about B class right now is because there's so many people chasing returns. They're forcing B class into like A class.
Hey, yeah.